It's going down in my neighborhood, yeah, the neighborhood. Do you care if your neighbor good? Is your neighbor good?
Yes, man. Y'all know what it is. Education is elevation. It's Wednesday morning. I know I'm a little late. I'm gonna start being more punctual, I promise. Just going over a couple of headlines before I start getting into the three topics I'm getting into today. Man, I see 19 minutes ago, Dr. Fauci declined to answer questions on the COVID origins, invoking the Fifth Amendment. That is what the Washington Post headline is saying. I'm trying to read the article right now, but of course they want me to pay that $3. You know what I'm saying? Start reading, access for free. But you got to enter email address. Let's see, man. I get up in there for free food. Yeah, yeah. I heard myself echoing for a minute, like, oh Lord, what the hell going on with that? See if I can read more of this headline though, because that is very alarming. You know what I'm saying? It definitely grabs the attention as that they was trying to do. See right here and read this. Read this live right now. Anthony Fauci repeatedly invoked the Fifth Amendment during a Senate hearing Wednesday. Republicans pressed the retired government scientist on whether he was sufficiently truthful in the past testimony about the coronavirus pandemic. Senator Rand Paul, Republican Kentucky, a longtime adversary of Fauci, concluded that in the nearly 3-hour hearing by saying the committee is planning to vote next week on whether to hold Fauci in contempt of Congress. Paul acknowledged to GOP colleagues that there is a legal question about whether Fauci could be held in contempt, citing President Joe Biden's preemptive pardon of Fauci last year, but contended that Fauci should have just answered questions on Wednesday, even if it meant admitting to a past lie or other wrongdoing. The reason why I'm covering this right now is because I know a lot of us in the public have a general distrust for a lot of the things that's happening when it comes to public health. When it comes to, hold on 1 minute. Hey, I'm on a live stream. As soon as I get done with this live stream, I'll probably be on here for about like an hour, and I'm gonna call you. I bet. Yeah, man. I see I'm looking a little woolly mammoth, man. So I'm at the hit of my barber, like, man, I'm trying to get up in there this morning. He hit me back, telling me what it is, man. But to this Dr. Fauci story, let me put it on the screen for y'all, man. I know that a lot of us have a medical distrust when it comes to the whole, I feel like medical industry, and Dr. Fauci inciting Fifth Amendment when we start talking about the origins of COVID. I know that it should wave alarms. I also know that the Washington Post has been bought by the alt-right, anti-science, anti-COVID. Y'all was running a conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying? So I think I feel like we want to make sure the source that I'm reading is also contextualized on the point that's being made, because, we should always be skeptical of everything. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing is absolute, and everything we should be skeptical about. It says that Fauci's lawyer alleged that Paul was fixated on Fauci after their clashes at the height of the pandemic, referring to a 2021 incident in which the two men traded accusations of lying. And the senator's sole purpose for hearing was to punish Fauci and see him in prison. The accusation that Chairman Paul continues to propagate are false and disgraceful, and will examine all options to hold accountable. This is what Fauci's lawyer said in a statement. Before I get into how I think Texas is engaging in conservative contradictions and saying they care about big business, and then they go to ban a whole bunch of different smokables, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to THC and Delta 10 and all that. I just made a video about it. I'm gonna report and show y'all this, what I have from Dallas News. I'm putting it on the screen, man. I feel like it's better for me to read it while I'm on the screen. Shout out to everybody that's been, tuned in with me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter, and definitely on Substack. Look at, they trying to put a little ad up in there. So we see that that Texas is expanding to ban and do this THC crackdown. I think this is a great segment to talk about the free market and talk about capitalism and conservative contradictions around competition. The same way they love to talk about how these different socialist identities or socialist values would lead to particular people being able to manipulate the market or dictate what the market do, we see that's usually the call coming from inside the house. So we can call it even a capitalist contradiction. Man, when we start seeing that the prison industrial complex was starting to be impacted by how many people being incarcerated, because now we have looser parameters on the legalization or the illegalization of marijuana or cannabis, we start seeing industry start feeling the sweat. You know what I mean? We also know that here in the United States, and especially here in Texas, we're starting to see some record lows on drinking alcohol. So we have the prison industrial complex, we have the alcohol industry, you know what I'm saying? And then we have, I'm gonna stick with them two. Them two industries we see are being directly impacted based off of how these hemp products and how these hemp products are being legalized. We also know that the same party that say they care about big businesses, the same organization, the same party that say they care about the flourishment of everyday Americans, they're about to have people have to shut down overnight and make it where the products they spent their hard-earned work money on, the products that they spend time putting on their product or putting on their shelves, it's not going to be outlawed based to some nebulous law that them industries is able to do. Their bureaucracies, their interest groups, you know what I'm saying, and they lobbies to make sure that they got the policymakers to pass a bill that favors their industry having profit, wiping away the competition. The turmoil surrounding THC products. This report is coming from Dallas NBC or the NBC DFW. Man, it says the turmoil surrounding THC products in Texas continues. Starting in 2 days, y'all, July 31st, the Texas Department of State Health Services will reinstate controlled substance definitions that classify products containing cannabinoids such as Delta 8, THC, Delta 10 THC, THCP, and other intoxicating THC variants as a Schedule 1 controlled substance. The reclassification effectively removes many of these products from the legal hemp market in Texas. What I think is important is this part right here. How they are framing this in the media, speaking a little media literacy in there, and how they're framing this in terms of the law so we understand criminality. Now, when they say other intoxicating THC variants, do we have any data that shows that individuals are losing their lives to the way that they're ingesting this particular product? No, we don't have that evidence. No, we don't have that data, but they still understand that framing THCA, THCB as being intoxicating is supposed to give you some type of emotional response. These folks know that if they frame, one of the leading costs of drunk driving, you know what I'm saying? One of the leading costs of death in our country is drunk driving. If they framed it about public health and being intoxicating, it wouldn't sit well with their lobbyists and their donors and the bureaucracies and the interest groups that pay them. It wouldn't sit well with them. So now we see that the alcohol industry was able to pay a bunch of money to our policymakers to ensure that legislation was passed to make sure they had what they had, man. And to me, I think it's funny, like CP&D pointed out on YouTube, is that these red states is living in the past, and these red states be the quick to talk about the power of competition, and these red states be the first to try to demonize everything that they understand or everything they wish they understood about socialism and understood about communism. But then the very thing that they project onto these ideologies and these values as being bad, that's what they sit around and turn around and do. So the red states that say they love capitalism and the red states that say that if you vote for us, we'll be able to take care of the everyday American and make sure the small business owners are able to thrive, and look at them leftists, them Democrats over there, liberals over there. Because they never understand they never make the distinctions between a liberal or a leftist or a Democrat or a communist or a socialist. They think everybody on their side is that. They'll say they are against everyday working Americans and they passing bills to do X, Y, and Z. And then you have red states like Texas go and pass, I would say, anti-capitalist, anti-free market type of sentiments, man. But I don't want to just throw around these words. Let's see if we can get a formal definition of the free market, because maybe we have some students watching, maybe we have some people that, that's not familiar or don't know what I'm talking about when I say the free market. You know what I mean? You know what? We ain't gonna go with the AI definition. We're gonna go with the Merriam-Webster. You know what I'm saying? Let me make this a little bigger for y'all. We're gonna go with the Merriam-Webster. This is when they teach us about the Red Scare and they teach us in school about the productivity of capitalism and how capitalism awards innovation. They're gonna bring up competition, and they're gonna say that the reason why socialism and communism is bad is because everybody is paid the same. They're not incentivized to work hard because hard work incentivizes competition, and competition is what pushes, innovation and creativity and how we have the best products. Free market is what they say. As a matter of fact, all the Republicans claim, that they care and they're gonna fight for protect the free market. The free market is defined as an economic system in which prices are based on competition among private businesses and are not controlled or regulated by the government. The free market is defined as an economic system in which prices are based on competition among private businesses and are not controlled or regulated by the government. If we have the hemp or cannabis industry starting to boom, and now consumers are deciding that they want to, consume more cannabis than they want to consume alcohol, or we want to make it where now we are able to navigate around the prison industrial complex and we feel like these industries start to lose profit. What does it mean to go to the government so they can rig the game to make sure your competition is splashed out so you can make some money? That's against the free market, right? Let's keep on reading definition though, man, because now we got to add more context. Because right now I'm developing an argument, and I want to make sure I give some argument development to this argument. There are a bunch of people that I think that they are poor, working class, impoverished proletariats, shucking and jiving, and for billionaires. You feel me? We got hundredaires, thousandaires loving to do the ugly, dirty work of the capitalists by assuming that if they can justify the exploitation of poor people, that one day too they'll be rich to be able to exploit poor people. A free market technically requires no government intervention, which is why capitalists usually land on the right of the political spectrum. In America, the government regulates businesses for the reason of social welfare and public safety, so we don't operate in a truly free market. George Orwell, the Orwellian doublespeak guy, the dude that we also taught about in school, he had this concept and this idea behind not only doublespeak, but behind how the elite are able to control narratives that make individuals do things that is anti them, or that's or say like this. When I say George Orwell, I think about Orwellian George, or Orwellian thoughts. I think about how power always perverts the way it is exerted on people, and it makes it seem like it's benevolent and like it's good and like it's, oh my God, they're trying to do fun for us. Well, in actuality, it's always counterintuitive. Anytime we start hearing about the pathology around cannabis, it always got to borrow from these old archaic ideas around criminalizing Black people, making sure we fear the dark brown cartel south of the border, making sure we get into all these anti-capitalist tropes because marijuana or cannabis is gonna make you lazy and make it where you can't think and all this shit. You see what I'm saying? But we know when it comes to the impacts of alcohol, every type of health benefit they say that cannabis is bad is exponentially worse when it comes to consuming alcohol. But we have alcohol embedded to our everyday society that we're able to go and have these celebratory things, and we're able to see alcohol commercials. But you know what I'm saying? Shit, we ain't seeing them alcohol. We're not gonna be seeing them cannabis commercials no time soon. In closing of talking about what is going on with Texas. Right now, Texas is in a midterm election. We got it coming around. We got Gina Hinojosa going against Greg Abbott at the governor. We got James Todorico going against Ken Paxton, Ken Paxton for a Senate. And then we got a bunch of other important races going down the ballot. When it comes to how cannabis specifically is criminalized in the great state of Texas, I would argue that rich people, poor people, Black people, white people, Latino people are all impacted by the criminality, the criminalizing of this product. Of course, disproportionately Black and brown bodies. But I'll say when we go to the election, when you go to the ballot this year, when you go to it in midterms, keep in mind, who is doing all these things to attack small businesses here, and poetically, they're trying to convince us that the immigrants are taking your jobs. They can't blame the immigrants on taking away jobs in the hemp, taking away jobs in these growers, taking away these jobs of these smoke shops. They can't blame it on the immigrants. They passing policies that's taking away jobs while telling you you should demonize an entire community because they saying they taking away jobs. So for me, if you really care about jobs being taken, you'll have more beef with these data centers, and you definitely have more beef with these policymakers that's creating policy that leads to us losing jobs. You know, Troy Hinchman, I'm sick of seeing lazy people not dressing appropriately, especially my black sisters. I've done seeing bonnets and pajamas at graduation ceremonies. And that's just embarrassing. Oh man, I guess this is where we're going next. Shout out to you, Troy Hinchman. Um, I'm a approach this from a academic standpoint before I get into thoughts about policies, man. Just stating it from the jump, like just stating it from the big picture, from the big picture. The thing that we should spend the most time, effort, and energy on when it comes to black students is curtailing and resolving the things that threaten their livelihood the most. The thing that threatens black children's livelihood the most is their access to higher education. And if they go to a, institution, you feel me, what is the graduation rate? It's in the big picture. Tuskegee has an 81% first year retention rate and a 29% 4-year graduation rate, which means that students are showing up and staying, and something between year 1 and year 4 is eating them alive. And that something has never been measured in headwear. It's never been measured in headwear. I think that the conversation on the surface is just about headdress, and the conversation on the surface is about, I guess, dignity. But there's a historical context that's being missed when we start talking about what is happening with this particular institution. I have a degree in African American studies. That's my undergraduate degree. I have 2 master degrees. One of them is in adult and higher education. The other one of them is in human relations. And I have experience in teaching students in higher education as well as being an administrator. Though I wasn't a professor in the capacity of teaching college students when I was at Morgan State University for 2 summers, I did have the privilege of teaching students, however, at the University of Morgan State, for 2 summers. With that being said, I'm not just speaking from experience, I'm also speaking from expertise. And I'm not just speaking from experience and expertise. I think a lot of people that are being loud and proud on this subject are not really qualified, especially because y'all are trying to hold the weight of decorum and hold the weight of authority and say what authority is and what it ain't. And what I do know is that data is on my side. You see what I'm saying? When it comes to me talking about this degree that I got in African American studies, I learned a little bit about Booker T. Washington, and I learned specifically that Booker T. Washington was able to, start the great university, the great institution of Tuskegee. So I want to be clear, and me disagreeing with a policy of the institution does not mean I disagree with the institution. See what I'm saying? What I know is that I live in the state of Texas. I've never not lived in Texas or Oklahoma, but I'm still able to be critical of how policies impact Black folks that live in Alabama or live in Mississippi or live in California or live in New York. You see what I'm saying? So just want to put that clear, right? But getting into the historical context, right? Booker T. Washington preached the gospel. He preached the gospel of the toothbrush at Tuskegee. Within the 1895 Atlanta Compromise, there was a bunch of proclamations, declarations that was made. What we know about, being an academic or being an intellectual or being a scholar, just like we're able to critique W.E.B. Du Bois's concept of a talented tenth, we're also able to critique different concepts or understandings that Booker T. Washington, especially when it came to what he was proclaiming in the 1895 Atlanta Compromise. Now, I got some notes, so I ain't just all over the place, right? This is where he is. Booker T. Washington preached the gospel of the toothbrush at Tuskegee. Literally, Personal grooming and hygiene as the road to acceptance. Industrial training as the price of admission. And in the 1895 Atlanta Compromise as a deal, cast down your bucket where you are, accept social separatism or social separation, and earn respectability through labor and presentation, and the rest will come. That is what all of y'all that are being intellectually dishonest about, that is the root of what y'all are talking about when it comes to dressing for success or making sure you have dignity or making sure you ain't the root of your thing is still rooted in respectability politics. You feel me? The person that pioneered, that started the institution is literally telling you in the 1895 compromise that if you just work hard, and if you just brush your teeth, you feel me, have more sanitation, this is what it'll be. Now, I want to be clear this because I know, because this is what I know about respectability politics. I will make a argument that is substantiated, you feel me, with data and given analysis, and individuals will respond to it as just straight up, well, I think that you disagreeing with the ancestors is a straight up disrespect of the ancestors. And instead of me engaging in what you're actually saying, I'm going to play up this idea that because you're able to do what you're doing and saying how you're saying it, I think you're completely disrespecting the legacy of the ancestors we're talking about. And I think that is what I call bad faith. But also, I think a link to my argument about respectability politics, because it shows you see what I'm saying? Anytime we start getting into the weeds of the Black elite managerial class, one falls into these emotional provoking tropes. W.E.B. Du Bois answered him in 1903. That's 8 years later. In chapter 3 of The Souls of Black Folks, he said, "Oh, Mr. Booker T. Washington and others." And the answer was that the program of submission and industrial presentation, purchased as the price of political rights and higher learning, would never deliver what it was promised because the terms were being set by people who had no intention of honoring them. When we sit back in 2026 and we see that we have a plethora of Black women that are losing a job at the federal level, you have to ask yourselves, did they wear bonnets when they were in college? In all seriousness, though, a lot of y'all not keeping it a stack. You're not keeping it real. The reason why students is having a dilapidated academic experience is not because of what they putting on their bodies. It's because of when their parents pay taxes, the federal government doesn't value those Black institutions. So I think being able to police the bodies and what they putting on their head in the institution does not really impact on what they put inside their heads. Now, if you have an institution that has I think according to Tuskegee, it's like a 29% graduation rate for four-year students. I don't know what banning this does. I don't know what banning do-rags, bonnets, house shoes, pajamas. I don't know what it does. What I also know fine too is that there's a study. The study was done on K through 12, right? Study was done through KO12. I think it's called GAO. I'm gonna get to it. But the study found that at predominantly Black schools, this is where we had more stricter dress codes. Those more stricter dress codes associated with lower graduation rates, lower petition rates, and lower class participation. Du Bois was right. In 1903, the compromise did not deliver. Jim Crow hardened. The vote receded, lynching curve went wrong way, and the toothbrush did not save a single person from any of it. So when Tuskegee in 2026 announces that Black students must present in a certain way in order to be received by a workforce, that's not innovation. It's reissuing the Atlanta Compromise in fabric. Same institution, same theory of change, same century old, but if we manage to surface, the structure will relent. What y'all mean to tell me is in any instance, we are able to say that assimilation is bad. But when you feel like your alma mater is doing it in the name of Black excellence, then all of a sudden assimilation becomes good. Say, man, hey, man. Listen. It is okay that you believe that there are particular things that you put on that should only happen in the house. Other people disagree. Get over it. As a matter of fact, some of that shit y'all be putting on, I think that he should have kept it in the house as well. Let's get it. Let's get a little let's get a little debatey though when it comes to the policy. You're not allowed to wear a ball cap or a hat inside of inside of a interview either. So why stop at the bonnets and do-rags? Should we also outlaw the hats and the caps? Shouldn't we? All right, all right, all right, all right. But before we go even deeper, though, before we go deeper, you know what I'm saying? Let's just make sure we are getting the receipts right before we start the argument. You know what I'm saying? President Mark Brown emailed parents of incoming students ahead of the 2026-2027 academic year, announcing a set of changes he framed as a step in a period of transformation. The policy prohibits bonnets, do-rags, and bedroom shoes in classrooms, dining halls, and official university settings, including convocation. It prohibits revealing clothes in those same spaces. It requires business suits and appropriate shoes for business meetings and professional events. It tightens attendance and bans phones in class absent instruction permission. Faculty are authorized to address students who do not comply. Brown's statement rationale in his own words, the goal is not to restrict students from enjoying the Tuskegee experiment, but to prepare them for a solid foundation for the workforce they will enter once they leave. Hold on to that sentence though, y'all. Hold on to that sentence, man, because the whole argument fall apart right there. Here's what we know. Here's what we know. Here's what we know. The four-year graduation rate is roughly 29 to 31%. The sixth-year graduation rate is roughly 57 to 61%. And that's depending on the cohort or the source. According to Tuskegee own quick facts list, it said 57%. But let's like, when we start talking about data, and we start talking about research, and we start talking about what is needed, the respectability politic part of it is up in there, because your notion of what it means to have decency is really in a double bind. Either A, you believe that the world should always conform to you. No. I'm gonna say simply. Either A, you believe that Black folks should conform to what you believe Black folks should look like with dignity and belief success, or you believe that's the only way we're gonna do it for white people. I'm saying the only way we're gonna respect this for white people. You see what I'm saying? Either it's all because of what you saying, or you gonna be real and say it's because of what Booker T. Washington said in 1895 about this Atlantic Compromise and about being able to earn your respect. That's what it was about. And to be clear too, the distinction between respectability and respect is one that I hope people do not be purposely obtuse in trying to say that white people corner the market on respectability. And in order for Black folks to have respect amongst each other, we must uphold particular standards. You see what I'm saying? But also, before I go deeper into this, though, let's just get us a working definition of respectability politics, because a lot of people are throwing this word around, and I think that's not what that is. You see what I'm saying? First, it was coined by the historian Evelyn Brooks in 1993. And it was attempts to counter the negative stereotypes or the ways that we blame individuals within the group for systemic injustices. If we give the Black elite bougie managerial class long enough, they will slide into the white supremacist tropes that weaponize and that demonize Black folks. That's ghetto, that's lazy, carry yourself better, pull up your pants. When we see brothers in three-piece suits being lynched, what does it mean for you to talk about pulling up one's pants? What does it mean for you to start talking about dressing like you got dignity? You know, I got multiple years of experience being a professor at the University of Oklahoma, predominantly white institution. And what I know when I was teaching, it's a predominantly white institution, that no white parent or white government or white institution would police their kids in a way that say, hey, man, in order for you to come to the class you pay to be at, you got to wash your ass. You got to not be in your pajamas. You cannot have this on. It's like, hey, you stayed up all night cramming for your class, cramming for, you know what I mean, exam you got. Your class at 8 a.m. Research says that if I create more barriers for you to get into the classroom, you're not going to come into the classroom. Now, if you already acknowledging that you have an issue with class participation, creating more barriers to get inside the classroom is not going to increase the class participation. It's not. You know? And also we know too, like there are just certain obtuse claims that it's never really trying to get at what it is. The argument is simple. You see what I'm saying? The issue that happens, the most pressing thing that's happening with Black students is not them dressing for success because they want to wear bonnets and do-rags. You see what I'm saying? Like that is specifically what is being argued. That's specifically what's being said. You know what I mean? And it's just like, if you believe that more funding for an institution is going to happen because because bonnets and do-rags is gone, it's like, that is a misdiagnosing of the problem. You know, it is a misdiagnosing of the problem. And what I know as somebody with a degree, a master's degree in human relations, is that when we start talking about access to higher education, or we start talking about how a lot of Black men particularly get into institutions and we're not retained from 1 year to year 2, and we definitely don't make it to that graduation rate, we have to start thinking about belongingness, and we have to start getting into what the data say. You see what I'm saying? Maybe you've been indoctrinated to believe that in order for you to dress for success, you have to dress for success in a way that the managerial Black elite class say we have to do. You feel me? I've been an unapologetic Negro for all of my life, and I've made it very, very far. I have never had to comply or assimilate to what it means to dress good. You see what I'm saying? Or to what it means to dress for success. I'm able to use the bonnets and use the everything that is called dilapidated, underdeveloped, ahistorical, apolitical. It's like I need for us to really have a class analysis, and when we start talking about this bonnet situation, and I really want to see a Venn diagram for the Black leftists and the Black liberal, quote unquote, especially how they are engaging within this conversation, because I'm trying to see something. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to see something. You feel what I'm saying? What is the correlation? What correlation do do-rags have with course study or final grades? Studies show that when students show up to class comfortable, that it facilitates a learning environment that makes sure, you feel me, that learning is happening. You know what I mean? So when you talk about a student showing up comfortable, we talk about the learning process being that much better, right? So let's say your hair look like mine right now. You know what I mean? You need a little line up, you need a little edge up, and you're worried about your presentation. Typically, because of how the environment is said, the hair that naturally grows in my hair can be unkept or can be unprofessional, one will cover it up. So if I'm going to class and my present and my body in the classroom is important, and I want to get this too. As a former educator, professor, somebody with a degree in higher education, a master's degree in higher education, when y'all make these horrible analogies about classroom and college being like jobs or being your job, it's the worst thing ever, because no job, you've never paid a job to be present. You've never paid a job to be present. Jobs pay you to be present, not the other way around. So that shows you structurally your metaphor is bad, it's wrong. You're paying for a product or a service when students go to class. That's what happens. You see what I'm saying? Not the other way around. Not the other way around, you know? And it's just certain things. And when I'm done with this, we're gonna go to talking about free speech. You see what I'm saying? I'm almost done with this right here, because it is what it is. But let's just get down to some studies. I'm just gonna read a couple of them. You know what I mean? Read a couple of them, and then we're gonna move on. The first study we're gonna get into is the Brontimer Rock Quickmer that comes from 1998. It's a Journal of Education Research. They took the National Education Longitude Study of 1988, and they pulled the 10th grade data across public, private, and Catholic sectors. They tested the exact claim uniform advocates were making at all time. The finding: no direct effect on attendance, no direct effect on behavior, no direct effect on problems. That's 1998. So what we see right here is that in 1998, years and years and years and years ago, even studies back then, though, we know that we've gotten even a much more, we've updated, you know what I'm saying, the impacts of what it is I'm able to get to the claims about how creating barriers to the classroom creates, you know what I'm saying, lowers classroom attendance. We even see a study from 1998 showed that this idea of dressing for success has no bearing on data. And we see that from 1998 to 2026, there has been no data that substantiates the counter argument. Right now, I think maybe what I find funny is that Not only was I a policy debater that made it a Hall of Fame career after going negative against policies, and right now I'm technically performing a negative argument against the policy, and I was good at it. The second thing is, in my little small country town of Texas, it was usually a particular type of black adult that asked me, hey, even though you're homecoming king, even though you're prom king, even though you're class president, even though you're graduating in the top 20% of your class, if your dream job asked you to cut your hair, Mr. Lee, would you cut your hair? That was a question. That was a question that was about assimilation. And maybe when I was younger in high school, I didn't have the language, but it always bothered me. And I understand now. I understand now. If a system is designed in anti-blackness, you policing yourself, you know what I'm saying? You policing other people that look like you does not change the way that system is designed. It don't at all. As a debater, I know specificity in your research is important. So we're not going to use any more sources that deals with the K through 12 education. We don't deal with any of those. We're going to now get into I'm finna reference studies that is specifically towards higher education. That is about the retention in higher education and the graduation rate in higher education. And no matter how much you disagree with how I'm saying and what I'm saying, you can't negate this data. You can't negate this research. You feel me? Facts over feelings. And listen, the thing about making your own shit is the bougie elite managerial black cast can't tell me how to run my shit. You see what I'm saying? I done made it very far on being an unapologetic nigga that said like the way it is. And first, I think too, being a first generation college student, I never liked the way that this third generation, 5 generations, you come from 10 generations of being a managerial elite. You think you dictate what it means for all of us to be successful. You think you can dictate what it means for all of us to be, you know what I'm saying, have dignity. It blows my mind. The same crowd that'd be quick to tell you, blackness is not a monolith. It's the same crowd that now want to dictate what it means for us to have some gall. We'll concede a success for people looks different. Success for everybody looks different. But then we'll dictate a very rigorous understanding of what it means to dress for success. Hey man, shit ain't adding up. Strayhorn established sense of belonging as a human basic need in college context and a direct predictor of persistence, and established that it operates most powerfully, precisely for students who identifies as marginal in institutions' dominant culture. Strayhorn, Staryhorn, Strayhorn. The students most sensitive to belonging cues are exactly the students that our policy is aimed at. Here goes one that is published in 2011 from Walton and Cohen. They ran a brief social belonging intervention with college students, not a dress code, a short exercise reframing social adversity as normal and temporary rather than advanced into it. A short exercise reframing social diversity as normal and temporary rather than in evidence that you do not belong. The result, African-American students' grade point averages rose across the following 3 years, and the racial achievement gap in the sample was cut roughly with the measurable improvements with self-report and health well-being. A message about belonging moved GPA for 3 years. Think about that as the opposite of dress code. Now let's go to another one. This is Hurtado and Carter. Hurtado spelled Hurtado. It demonstrated that campus racial climate shapes sense of belonging, and that for minoritized students, maintaining ties of their own cultural communities are associated with better outcomes, not worse. The students who held on to their culture persisted in the finding that they replicated across populations that are almost 30 years. Now, before I get into this next source, I want to just answer an obtuse argument that I've seen in my comment sections that says bonnets are not Black culture. If the bonnet was created specifically to detect or to protect our hairstyles, how is it not? If Blackness is not a monolith, how can you try to say what is not Black history or what is not Black culture, especially if it is worn by so many Black folks? Musis and culturally engaging campus environment model. the MUSEUS, and the culturally engaging campus environments model. It operationalized the same insight into measurable institutional indicators. 2 of the 9 indicators are cultural familiarity and culturally relevant knowledge, meaning the degree in which students encounter their culture reflected back to them in the institution predicts sense of belonging, and the sense of belonging predicts the persistence. I keep on throwing the word professionalism around like it's a thermometer. Professionalism is not a thermometer. Professionalism is a preference with a payroll behind it. And we have to measure that. Another study, Koval and Rosette. This is a new one. This is right here is one I want to update. This one right here is from 2021. 4 studies out of Duke's Fuquay School in Michigan State. Participants were put in the role of recruiters screening applicants' profiles. Black women with natural hairstyles, afros, braids, twists were rated less professional, less competent, and were recommended for interviews less often than Black women with straightened hair, and then white women with curly or straight hair. Studies 3A and 3B found that penalty intensified in industries with strong dress norms. Rosette's own framing the mechanism in which Western society, where whites are historically been the dominant social group, the standard for professional appearance is what the physical appearances of the whites, get into. You cannot train a student out of the trait being penalized, because the trait being penalized is them. What you can do, what this policy actually does, is teach the institution that they're recruited. What it does is that teach the institution that recruited her agrees that people who will penalize her are not building the armor, and they're not penalizing her out of immorality or out of anti-Blackness. They're penalizing her out of formality and professionalism. You know, Tony Foster said, imagine if they banned boat shoes, Sperry's OU. Those are that's vacation wear. To me, what I know is that if we concede that white people control the job market, they're going to be the one who's doing the hiring, firing. They're going to be the ones that's giving out the, do you get a raise or not get a raise? They show up to class with their ass not washing in pajamas. I was a professor at the University of Oklahoma, predominantly white institution, for multiple years. And what I would tell you is that the notion of dressing for success is something that we only do to ourselves. And by definition, respectability politics is when people start to police themselves that are in a minority group or that are in a disenfranchised group. And right now, this conversation is about us policing ourselves. Respectability politics is a strategy where marginalized groups conform to dominant cultural standards, such as specific modes of dress, speech, or behavior to gain social acceptance, safety, or rights. Respectability politics is a strategy where marginalized groups conform to dominant cultural standards, such as specific modes of dress, speech, or behavior. Let's go back up, because I know people are going to be like, oh, y'all trying to make it like white people is about everything. Black folks can just want this, that, and the other too. Booker T. Washington preached the gospel of the toothbrush at Tuskegee. Literally, personal grooming and hygiene was the road to acceptance. Industrial training as the price of admission. In the 1895 Atlanta Compromise, the deal was cash down your bucket where you are. Accept social separation. Earn respectability through labor and presentation, and the rest will come. That is the value or the ideology that supercharges y'all concepts of dressing for success. Success for who? Success for you, for who? You're going to chastise the person that look like you because they got a bonnet on regardless of what they're able to perform? Success for who? Are predominantly white institutions worse for black bodies than black bodies, to be clear? Yes. But that does not make it immune from critique. I would much rather send my black students, my black children to an HBCU than a PWI. That does not mean that this institution is going to be immune from criticisms. No matter how much you like me, I understand I'm not immune to criticisms. No matter how much I like a thing or appreciate a thing, I know it is not immune to criticism. It's the picture of goddamn Malcolm X behind me. It would be intellectually dishonest to say that we cannot critique this man because he was infallible. Just like humans are infallible and can be, institutions is too. Let's like, if blackness not a monolith, how can you tell me what it means for me to have dignity? You know, if blackness ain't a monolith, how can you dictate what black excellence look like for me? And then even that. In higher education institutions, we usually give our students access to scholarship. And the scholarship is showing you, usually in the black radical tradition, you got a bunch of different scholars and thought leaders that's critiquing and arguing with each other. Y'all are engaging in this talent intent behavior, even though I forwarded the W.B. Du Bois critique of Booker T. Washington. I also know there is a critique with teeth that says that the way that y'all do this black elite talented shit is not good for the race. It's elitist. And for y'all to you engage in elitism. In closing, I'll say this. Anti-blackness is not a bug in the labor market that better grooming can route around. Anti-blackness is the low variant, is the structural design of what we are up against. The market did not accidentally develop a preference against black hair or black skin. The market was built from the Negro Act forward and on the ability to read and rank black bodies. You cannot dress your way out of an engine. Whether I speak perfect diction English or I speak with Ebonics, I understand this black skin gonna make it where certain things I gotta deal with. Whether I got my pants below my ass or I got them things held up with a Gucci belt, I understand it's a certain level of anti-blackness I'm still gonna have to deal with. And you smoking dope and dog food if you believe that I'm gonna be able to, hey man, hey job, I had a 4.0 GPA. I got a PhD, a master's degree, and I also never wore a bonnet or never wore a do-rag to cafeteria. Now I'm more qualified to my white counterpart. Studies show, goddamn, that when it comes to thinking about the racial wealth gap, even when you have a white participant and a black participant that have the same exact credentials and experience, the white person still chose over them. What we know based off statistics, a white person that dropped out of college still more likely to be hired in many industries over a black college graduate. We're not finna dress our way up out of that. I can read as many books as I want and work as hard as I want to. There is something pervasive about the permanence of racism. That comes from Derek Bell right there. That's the critical race theory right there. You feel me? What did W.B. Du Bois say in Souls of Black Folks? What did Patricia Hill Collins say specifically about how we do what did Dr. Celia Hartman say about the scenes of trajectory? So the same places that put credence on scholarship and puts credence on data is now trying to say that scholarship and data don't matter because it disagrees with my self-righteous managerial black elite classes ass. Come on, man. What are we talking about? Hey, it's the last thing I say, and then I get to the freedom of speech chapter of this book. This is the last thing I say with this right here. The same way them white folks love to look down on niggas that seen as being ghetto and seen as being lazy and seen as being underdeveloped and seen as being not put together, seen as y'all do the same things. You feel me? There's a certain class of black folks that love to point their finger and put their nose down on certain black folks the same way white people do. And we know it's true because you use the same language and verbiage. That's lazy. That's ghetto. You ain't even original in how you want to be oppressive. You see what I'm saying? You ain't even original in how you want to be classist. Classist. If we can acknowledge that our students is having a hard time getting them funyuns to get into the institution, what does it look like to dictate they have to wear goddamn suits and stuff like that? You see what I'm saying? My bad, y'all. Some gonna be offended. Black folks can't agree with black folks, you know what I'm saying, publicly, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Man, hey, man, for real, man. Before I get to Booker, Elizabeth Booker, and these conservatives going after her for giving this cake, it's the last thing I say, man. I'm an acquired taste. Not for everybody. George Lee, aka Conscious Lee, is an acquired taste. He's not for everybody. If you got an issue with anything I'm saying or doing, you got a few options. You can reject it, you can respect it or check it. You can block it or buck it. I'm still gonna say what I want to say though. And listen. I accept the same way that I can be followed for what I say or what I believe or how I move is the same way I can be unfollowed for what I say or how I move or what I believe. That's fine with me. I'm still gonna say what I believe and move how I move and say what I want to say. You see what I'm saying? And listen. In any moment, if you believe I've done something that's causing you any type of discomfort that you don't want to deal with, I encourage you to leave old consciously where you discard me and leave me where you left me at. You feel me? Discard me and leave me where you picked me up at. That's what I mean. I ain't turning nothing down but my collar. Education is elevation. And listen, I'm a Hall of Fame college policy debater with some degrees. I'm not just a fast talking nigga on the internet. Anybody want to invite me to a HBCU or to a PWI? We can talk policy. You know what I'm saying? I'm real good at talking policy. I just happen to have some portable skills that have allowed for me to have a great life because I took up the tenacity and invested in understanding the policy making process, as well as had a Hall of Fame debate college career and being able to evaluate and simulate how policy impacts Black people politically, socially, and economically. As a matter of fact, I won a national championship in policy debate at a higher education institution as a director doing administrative work. You see what I'm saying? On what I'm talking about. So if you want to know, man, why can't I just leave going off about this? He's still going on. Listen, man. If you call talking about higher education policy and how it impacts Black people crashing out, we need more people to crash out. Before I start talking about Elizabeth Booker, the same way you found me on that timeline, the same way you can leave me on that timeline. The same way you hit the follow button is the same way the unfollow button work, and the same way you can block. You feel me? But we popping out shit, man. Switching gears a little bit. The same type of, we're switching gears. I know we're tired of talking about, we're switching gears, guys. We're switching gears. Conservative contradictions, man. Conservative contradictions. Conservative contradictions, man. The same party that say they are against cancel culture, the same party that says that they are for freedom of speech, is now the same party that's calling for my homegirl, Elizabeth Booker, to be fired from her job. You know? And I find that preposterous. A congressman, as if this congressman ain't got bigger fishes to fry or more shit to worry about. You see what I'm saying? This congressman has penned a letter demanding that this Black woman lose her job because she did a lawful act that they find distasteful. What did she do? Some may be asking. Two Indiana congressmen have formally demanded that Indiana University fire an adjunct professor and comedian who delivered a cake frosted with the words, "Congratulations," to Lindsey Graham's former Senate office. In a letter addressed to the IU president, Pamela Whitten, and the dean of the university's McKinley's Law School in Minneapolis, Republican, a U.S. Representative Marlon Strutzman and Mark Smesmer said that Elizabeth Booker Houston should be fired for her comments that describe as vile and cruel, and that they violate the university's handbook. Celebrating the death of anyone, regardless of a political affiliation or ideology, is abhorrent and counter the values of civility, respect, and human decency. That's what Hughes hold dear. The letter reads, the kind of hateful and insensitive rhetoric that has no place in Indiana University is appalling. What I find appalling is these folks want us to have more respect for these racists, these unapologetic white supremacist, Confederate flag, token and junking. I'm talking about, you want me to have more respect and regard for them in death than they ever had for anybody when they was alive? What? So the Republicans that have been beating their chests about being free speech warriors and saying that the left is all about cancel culture is now wanting to fire a professor who did nothing illegally, and you want the administration to interpret a policy in a way that makes it where this individual is justified in being fired. Lindsey Graham called to like mass bomb Iranians, and y'all didn't find that vile. And two, you can't. The dolences part matter. She said dolences. You see what I'm saying? She said dolences, but they ain't even the part though. They ain't even the end though. They ain't even the end. I'm gonna get to this article, and I talked to Booker because y'all know what's crazy about this is I'm y'all know these past couple of days I've been doing my little walking. You feel me? I did the 1,000-mile. I'm doing the 1,000-mile walk to Memphis. Started in Nashville, walked from Nashville to Smyrna, from Smyrna to Murfreesboro, and now I'm back at home. But I missed a whole bunch because I had walked like 30 miles over 2 days. Before I was walking, I was planning after that. You know what I mean? So I missed all this. I'm talking to Booker on the phone. You know what I'm saying? She like, yeah, George, they trying to fire me. I'm like, trying to fire you? She like, yeah, they trying to get me fired from Indiana. I'm like, get you fired from Indiana? I'm like, nigga, that's you? She said, yeah, they trying to get me fired. I'm like, man, sis, I didn't see this headline come across my Facebook page a few different times, and I didn't know it was you. Man, she tell me this part though, this part that I feel like we gotta really sit with in this live stream, man. So sis was booked to go talk at the caucus. You know what I mean? Speak at like some event that this particular caucus, I ain't gonna name, you feel me? But it's left leaning, you know what I mean? We got progressives, we got democratic socialists, we got established Democrats. It's a conglomeration of different left leaning folks, from lefty left to moderate. Why was she supposed to host this event? And then when this shit happened, they took her off the event. So the same officials that rely on content creators to go to bat for them publicly, especially when it comes to them folks harassing them, going after them, they ain't want to reciprocate that when it came to her being attacked. They don't sit right with me, man. They don't sit right with me, man. You know, if the political, official, policymaker relationship with content creators gonna happen, shit, I gotta be able to go to bat just like y'all expect for content creators to go to bat for y'all. I know in hell you reach out to us for campaigns and to go fight for our lives and comment sections and do all this old shit. And then when it's your turn to come, you know what I'm saying, and protect and come and stand up, you want to be silent and cast to the wayside. I know one of my debates, one of my arguments I've been making, you know what I'm saying, for the past 2 years now, is that the Democratic Party, the establishments, the progressives, you know what I'm saying, all of its factions have its way of using Black people, particularly Black women, as fungible objects, as a way to insulate themselves from criticism they need to. And then being able to throw Black women away, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to making sure, listen, if me being in proximity with this Black woman is going to bring some criticism, I got a little distance. If me being in proximity to this Black woman is going to make sure I'm insulated from the criticism, I'm going to close that distance. That's what I'm seeing right here, fam. That's what I'm seeing right now. And then listen, as a leftist, you know what I'm saying, as somebody that identify more with people behind me than people that's running this country, I say like, the way the current Democratic Party as is has figured out a way to commodify Blackness and Black culture to forward the empire is something that just don't sit right in my it don't sit right with me. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about, like, I'm thinking about everything I've learned, especially when I was a college policy debater, about white supremacy and about how insidious the system of white supremacy is, about how we can even incorporate resistance to it and make it where the resistance to the system is still perpetuated, empowering, and making sure the system becomes more powerful. And I think that what's happening right now is, and be clear, a lot of times when I'm talking this specifically about liberals, left, this, that, and the other, a bunch of people I fuck with, you know what I'm saying? Shit, I disagree, we disagree, but there are things that we agree on. But when it comes to talking about establishment politics and policy and what's best for Black people, I know we have some disagreements. What I say though is that when it comes to the fungibility of blackness and black people, I think that leftists and liberals and moderates can have a bunch of disagreements, but when it comes to using black women as little pieces, they can agree with that. You feel me? They can agree with that. And I think that it's a lot to be said too, that Donald Trump was at Lindsey Graham. So I can just find some posts, man. So I can find this. Appreciate you, Nigel. Appreciate you, Nigel. Hey, ain't too, I want to be clear too, man. If I get back talking about Lindsey Graham, talking about Donald Trump falling asleep, you know what I'm saying, during this man's funeral, and they worried about a cake. I have no malice. I have no beef with nobody that graduated from an HBCU, none of the illustrious, you know what I'm saying, traditions or prestigiousness that come from these institutions. I just know, just like I'm not immune from criticism, no institution is immune from criticism, and just like I can do an action, people can disagree with it. Somebody, an institution can do action, I can disagree with it. I'm not trying to step on or disagree or specifically be disrespectful or disregard none of the people that come from the long legacy line of Tuskegee specifically or HBCUs. Say that explicitly. Say it one more time before I get back to showing y'all this clip of Donald Trump falling asleep. he fell asleep and they worried about a goddamn cake. To be clear, Conscious Lee ain't got no beef or no smoke with the institutions themselves. I do have a little space to critique the way that some of these institutions move. And I'll take the criticisms of the criticisms too. And I'm gonna get ready to show y'all a little smidget clip of Donald Trump at Lindsey Graham's funeral.
Best on. Yeah. There's a lot of times it's easy. It's easier to bow out.
Before I show this, I want to contextualize it and frame it up. The people that are going in outrage about a cake that says congratulations to Lindsey Graham, talking about the respect for his family and him being this, that, and the other, it's also having this man right here
go a different way, the path of least resistance, but he stayed the course.
Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, or
Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. That was a part of it. I ain't mean it's part of that part of it. I ain't trying to listen, man. Before I even show a clip of what Donald Trump actually said, like what he said at this funeral, still point out the selective moral outrage. Elizabeth Booker is bad because she sent a cake to his office. Donald Trump is falling asleep during this man's, you know what I'm saying, funeral in front of his family and kids. Elizabeth Booker is being called to be fired because what she did was foul and vile. Donald Trump is not being called to be fired and resign. And what he did was arguably more egregious. Elizabeth Booker didn't send that cake to his family, he sent it to the office. This man is falling to sleep in front of the family, and the people that support him is calling for my homegirl to be fired. This is why I have a beef with respectability politics, man. You know, the same way that the Republican Party love to throw up a black hip hop song when they want to disrespect immigrants, disrespect black folks. You feel me? The same way they want to prove they're cool and hip and use some black cultural production is the same way also they can demonize black culture as well. That blows my mind. The same way that they can say, hey, you doing this to this person in death is unacceptable, it's inappropriate, is the same way they can let this man say this. Let me put this. Let me pull up this man's comments, man, because when I tell y'all, like when I pull this up, I want you to think to yourself, if you were at a funeral, and the funeral was with somebody that you love, you care about, how would you respond? If a person said this, man, at your daddy funeral, at your uncle funeral, at your cousin funeral, maybe that might be an ad first.
Tired of spending your
Ad
vacation
first.
indoors? Be outdoorsy.
I am resurrection and I am life, says the Lord.
But no matter how heated things got in Washington, virtually everyone, Republican or Democrat, liked Lindsey. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. Not everybody. He was a tough cookie, okay? I have to.
Yo, everybody liked him. He did well. Actually, he wasn't. It sounded good though. Yo, this man, come on, man. He shouldn't be fired. So the cake is we cutting the line at the cake.
Well, not everybody, but it's everyone, Republican or Democrat, liked Lindsey. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. Not everybody. He was a tough cookie, okay? I have to veer from this for a second. He was a tough cookie, darling, but he was beautiful. Lindsey Graham believed in a strong America, wanted a strong America. He had unwavering faith in the righteousness of American power and prayer. He was a force of nature, and I will miss him greatly.
Mr. Prime Minister, you too have been a dear friend of mine for 30 years. It's an honor to have.
When somebody died, the Republican Party don't agree with, they'll say they deserved it. When a person dies that MAGA don't like, they will pull up all of the negative things they've ever done in life. They had a D-Harbor when they were in middle school. One time they picked their nose. One time on Twitter they cut somebody out. They went to jail in 2003. They'll put it out. But when one of theirs passed away, they expect the utmost respect. The person never shared people when they was alive. Like, even if you feel that what she did was tasteless, saying that you're gonna withhold institutional funding if that's they fired him, sound like blackmail, sound like extortion. But hey, this current administration been doing a lot of that. They've been doing a lot of that. They've been doing a lot of extortion, a lot of, threatening, a lot of blackmailing, a lot of, if you don't do this, I'm gonna do this to you. And I caught that. I caught that. I'm finna throw an extra one in. I know I feel like I didn't put this on the docket today, but Netanyahu, BB Netanyahu, he did show on that clip. And there was a bunch of conversations about what should we be focusing on in 2024, and about how the only way we can deal with what's going on with Israel and Palestine, unless we deal with us first, and it wasn't our problem, it had something to do with us. Any chance I get to show you was wrong, and sometimes be a little petty, I'm gonna start taking it. In this instance right here, I think that it's like to put it in. Let me see, man. Shout out to who Fierce Unbothered. Thank you for all you do. Signed a black woman who's working from home today in her bonnet and slippers. Damn respectability politics. On God, man. On God. Keep game, y'all. Keep game. Them old archaic ways, y'all understand the job market work. Them standards that you trying to uphold. That shit went around when we had remote working and when we had to fight, with data centers and shit. You see what I'm saying? That wasn't taking into account where you can go to a tech job that allowed for you to walk on a treadmill and for you to have, like hack days and shit. Like it ain't that. We ain't living in your time no more. We're not living in your time no more. We also know it's creating bad faith if you tell a student that if you dress a particular way, it's gonna make you look better for this job. Because it would not keep them in that job whenever they decide to, engage in anti-blackness. Shout out to you for this $4.99. Shout out to you for this $4.99. Naya Elise from Facebook says, Derek Reeves is an unnecessary standard they say has nothing to do with achieving the stated academic goals and outcomes of a person in classes. No data exists to support the notion that young adults learn better in hoodies. which I don't think were banned then in bonnets and do-rags. Yeah, man. Hey, man, say, man. Hey, man, say, man. Hey, man, say, man. Hey, man, say, man. Just because we back on it, I'm finna end this out. Let me see. Let me see, man. I had some notes, man. I'm going to my notes. You feel me? Going to my notes. Nah, you know what? I'ma let it go, man. We are good. I'm only done super chat once or twice before then. Hey, I appreciate it too. Who gets to dictate professional is the question and why. Hey, most definitely. Who has the ability to dictate what it means to be professional? You know, and who gave them the jurisdiction to say that? Matter of fact, we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it with that actually. We're gonna end with this. We're gonna end with etymology, guys. Is the study of the origin of words and how their meaning change over time and how they move through different languages. What is the etymology of professionalism? I think it's important in the conversation where we're debating about what it means to be professional. Professionalism traces back to the Latin root profitare, meaning to declare publicly or make a vow, evolving through Middle English religious vows into secular job-based callings, and finally taking its modern English role form in the mid-19th century. The earliest English noun profession referred to the solemn vows a person took when entering a religious order. For the people in the back, when you want to engage in neutrality or objectivity, when it comes to professionalism, we see that you're being intellectually dishonest. Because when we say professionalism, it comes from a certain social location and a certain ethnic racial background that have the power to dictate what it means to be professional. We see with the etymology of the word profession that it's traced back to the Middle English religion. You see what I'm saying? And it's tracked back to a particular type of culture, which means even at the root of what it means to be professional, it always reflects a particular culture. You are being intellectually dishonest if you're trying to say what it means to be professional has nothing to do with the culture that the concept comes from. You are not keeping it real if you believe that what it means to be professional is colorblind. You are not being real if you believe the notion of being successful is not tied to this cultural rigid understanding of being professional. Granny taught me money walking bullshit talk, man. What does it mean for your character if you know that a student has the wherewithal, the bandwidth, the credentials, the ACT score, the SAT score, and you plexing with them behind a goddamn bonnet, a do-rag, some pajamas, some house shoes? Hey, in closing, it's a whole bunch of multi-million-dollar niggas walking on them PWIs in house shoes, bonnets, and do-rags, and they making $2-3 million. When you say dress for success, what does that mean for the student athlete that's going to class with a bonnet on? When you say dress to success, what does it mean for Ibrahim Kennedy, a New York best time seller that graduated? He's a proud graduate of FAMU, Florida A&M University, that put in my comment section that he used to go to the cafeteria, in the classroom, and other events rocking a do-rag, and he's done great for himself. Is assimilation good or not? If assimilation is bad, then let assimilation be bad, man. You feel me? And listen, my argument is against the norm. That's what I'm telling you. My argument is against the norm. Not only is that, I'm calling into question some of these norms because your norm is not quantifying the great graduation rate. If you're telling me the norm and tradition is to go to school like a fashion show, and the fashion show is not quantifying a high graduation rate, I think we should call into question the mere tradition that y'all defending. You see what I'm saying? If the norm, it's been going on for a long time, and the norm brings a particular conclusion, and we're having a beef with the conclusion, we also have to call into question the norm. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, accepting the same results. But goddamn, if we still run a schoolhouse like it's a goddamn Met Gala and we ain't getting no, what we doing? Well, I'm ignoring what you say. What you say? Man, you put your email in the chat if you can. Yeah, I put my email in the chat. My bad, Alexis. What'd you say, Alexis? info@theconsciously.com. Cause we live on Twitch as well, man. We live on Twitch as well. You know what I'm saying? We live in Twitch as well. Stephanie Roberts. I wore a t-shirt and pajama pants to class throughout undergrad. My suite mates wore stilettos and didn't graduate, but they definitely dressed their asses off. Come on, man. Come on, man. As a former professor, I care more about what I was putting in my students' heads than what they wore to class on their heads. Hey man. I'm popping it too much now, man. I see y'all next Wednesday, 10:30 Central PM, 10:30 Central AM. You know what I'm saying? 10:30 Central AM. And I even try to be on time. I try to be on time, man.
We told them white people hear us, but they weren't listening. Dropping gems with some depth, trying to dig in. Elevating to another level, you should get in. I got my tie on with my cardigan. Yeah, they say he mean business. Oh, you know I'm about to start again, like Granny in the kitchen, no lie.